So, mud ground. Now this is going to be a two-part video because, as you can see, the footprints we will add them not randomly, but we're going to actually create a path using the FX node. Okay, and we can control basically both the size, the direction, or where the path is going. So the FX map is you know, a whole beast of its own, so we will tackle that as its own video. And let's see a few of the renders. As you can see, okay, we will go and create a base ground, add a lot of coloring on top. Okay, and we will get, we'll also play with the roughness, and we will get that something that looks like this. This is an OpenGL render. Okay, so let's go to Substance Designer. Now, this is the whole thing, and we're actually going to create another graph too, just for the footprints. And as you can see, it's mostly working with the color, like it's almost the same size. So let's get started. Okay, let me move it back over here. And before we actually see this, let me cover a little bit about the footprints, just so that you know why we're going to do that. Okay, we will have this node, and we can actually change position, okay, from an end position, depending on where we want it to go, which can be, of course, can vary a lot. We can also change the amount of footsteps. Okay, you can animate that also, and it will be fun. The distance between them, and as you can see, is that we will always place the right and a left foot, you know, and go into a logical progression. Now, we will see a little bit more about the footprints into the other into part 2. Let's go to the base ground. We will start with a Perlin Noise 1, okay, just to get something to work with, and we're going to use levels and, you know, isolate most of this. And then, because this is, you know, just a little bit too flat, basically we're using the Perlin Noise to get some height differences, and our main base will be clouds 2. Now we will pass it through a non-uniform blur, okay, and you can see that it starts, you know, softening some areas to make it feel more like mud. After that, directional work to break a little bit the design. Intensity by 10. Of course, you can change the warp angle, and we are going to reuse Perlin Noise 1. Next, we're going to use Fractal Sound 3, again non-uniform blur, and you can see that we start to get another interesting design. So why not blend both of these from our directional warp and blend them back again. Okay, so this is basically just random connections to see what we can get, and we have this with subtract, okay, around half, and you can see that it imprints into our previous pattern. So it kind of mostly separates the previous pattern instead of, you know, just overwriting, or not separate it, or makes it a little bit more sharp. Then we're going to want to isolate these black areas, okay, because this on the normal map will not look good, because it will just be flat. Over here we will have detail, and over here we will have flat. A simple way to do this, but because it works, because this substance is too much of organic, okay, in some other substances it might not work that good. So what I did, how I did that is I used an invert grayscale and use levels. Now of course I could have just do the invert in the levels node, so let's try it. Let's take this and let's take it to the top. So yeah, maybe it was a bad idea. So anyway, ignore that. Now we have the invert grayscale, which means the black areas are now white. To isolate that and create a mask, we're using a levels node. And you can see that I haven't isolated only the black area, and that is on purpose. So there is actually a bit of softening up, and there is also some gradation that goes from the actual hole we have on the ground, and it goes, and yeah, so it softens up everything around it so that it looks like everything blends down. And because we're just going to apply a fractal base on top of it with roughness a little bit down, then it's going to work pretty nice. Okay, you might see the separation over here, that it's pretty clear, but on the final one, yeah, you cannot actually see anything on the final one. Okay, simple enough. After that, we are going to go and basically add rocks just to get a little bit more shape differentiation. But you can see that I still kept the same color as the ground because I think it works really nice. So everything is blended down, since this is supposed to be muddy ground. Okay, let me raise this a little bit, put this over here. So for the pebbles, okay, regular stuff, shape, warp it. This is using the Peril Noise 1. You can use of course any other Peril Noise, and slow blur grayscale with Peril Noise zoom, and splatter circular. Okay, and we get something that looks like this. I prefer splatter circular because it's much easier to just, you know, splatter things around than the splatter than the normal splatter. Like you can see, it's a little bit more messy. We essentially do not care which one we use, since they both do the exact same job, as you can see. Now, after that, we're going to add a base of microsurface, but however you can see that we have a split separation over here. So from the base ground, we're going to add a different microsurface that doesn't have to do with the base ground. So it's just going to overlay it, and it's going to go on top of our base material we have over here, so that it you know, that it looks a little bit different, and so that we are making sure that areas that are very lighted, like, you know, like these highlights over here, will have something to go on top of it. Okay, and over here, max lighten. Okay, we add our rocks to the base shape. After the rocks, we will have the footprints. For the footprints, it's not anything to add. Basically, these two nodes, we will see them in a bit from the next part, and you can of course only add one, but I just added two because why not. Okay, and we blend them together. I blended them together, Peril Noise zoom. Okay, and I do a non-uniform blur grayscale, just so that it starts, you know, wiping away. Since this is mud, it shouldn't be you know, so hard surface or so hard pressed in the ground, so you get a fall off effect. And we go and add it both on the microsurface and on our base shape with subtract. And of course, the more you add this, the more inside the ground it is. But you can see that if you go way too much, then that means you have you basically pressed all the mud down, which is something that doesn't look exactly that nice. So I'm going to revert back to just 0.16. So this is the base for the base height or the base shape, and this is actually what we're going to use for our height. Now let's go and see after our rocks our microsurface. Again, Perlin noise zoom. Obviously we can reuse those, and let's reuse them. Okay, and this is another fractals on base, this time with a roughness with just the default values. We're going to blend them with max lighten, so we still get this bubbly effect. And since this is mud, there can be some areas that are pretty soft. Let's see if I can find one. Okay, yeah, I don't think I can find one. Like over here, okay, looks like it's a watered material, or yeah, if you notice on mud you might spot this. And yeah, if you do not want to have that sharp areas, then of course by all means no, do the opposite, or you can actually skip the whole part, but I kinda like it, as I said. Then we're going to add the rocks on top of our shape, which is this. Then on the microsurface detail we're going to add also the footprints. You can of course ignore the footprints just for the microsurface, because we already have them into our base color, into our base shape. Okay, I'm going to leave this entirely up to you what you want to do, but I think I kinda like having a bit more texture into it, inside the footprints actually. Okay, so this makes sure that there's no uniform, there's no planes that do not have any texture upon them. And we create our two normals, intensity 3 for the microsurface, and this works because in this material, mostly because it's mud ground, we usually only go with 1 and 2 intensity for the microsurface, but on some cases 3 is good enough too. And of course the base color is 20, the base shape, not base color, is 20. Okay, so that everything pops out. Then a simple combine and we output the normal. We're going to create a curvature and ambient occlusion node. Okay, with the levels node I lowered a bit the shadows, because it was getting too much dark and we already have a little bit of dark colors into our base color. Okay, and we output it into the ambient occlusion node. Now let's see the roughness. So for the roughness, what I did is I took the base shape we have over here with the footprints, and you can see that the footprints are now really black also, which means it's going to make it be more reflective. And I inverted the grayscale. I tried to isolate the levels, or the positions or the pixels that are way too bright, as you can see over here. And of course the pixels that are way too bright in this one are the pixels that are into the lowest position into our material, or into our pixel we have over here. So that means the blackest areas. Okay, so that means if somebody stepped into the mud, then it starts pulling water where he stepped. And what I did with this is also went back from our base ground, okay, and I used clouds 2, blended with this with multiply. Since this is also the roughness map, it's not really that much important what you do or where you start your noise. Just make sure it kinda makes sense with this. with the specularity is going to help you pop out the most of the shapes. And then high pass grayscale, so we get everything watered down and at somewhat same position. And then we are blending them on top of with subtract, on top of our base shape, the actual footprints. And this is our roughness map. Metallic, of course, is over here. Okay, nothing on the metallic. The roughness is this, and we will get this effect that the lowest areas are the more reflective because, you know, there's water in them and so on. Obviously you can crank it up, but I don't like the artifacts that start popping. Okay, so I'm going to revert back to 0.46, and we get all the overall wet effect on top of this. So we have everything. Now let's see the color. For the color, this is again the base shape without the rocks. We can color the rocks separately, but I think, as I said already, it kind of works that they have the same color, since you can, if you look closely, you can separate the shapes. Okay, and we turn this into a gradient map, and what I did is started with this simple color, and this is the only color I sampled on an image. So I'm going to blend this with multiply, and we can get the shadows we get, or, you know, the darkening of some areas from our gradient map, which is based on our base shape. And after that is pretty much basically adding a lot more color variations. The first one I did is fixed another color from the very base one with hue, saturation, lightness, and I just use Grunge map 13. Okay, turn that into color, and then again with multiply on top of this, and then I'm blending it with add linear dots, and we start to get this. After that, another color with a little bit more of a yellow tint, and I took Grunge map 4, warp it with Perl Noise 2, okay, warp it even more with directional warp, Perl Noise zoom this time. I blur it a bit, just a little bit to, you know, soften it up, and then turn that into color. Multiply it with the color we have over here, and then blended this also with add linear dots. And after that, another color, more saturated this time. Okay, lightness is up, saturation is lowered, but it looks more bright. And we started with black and white spots, levels, gradient map, make it into color, multiply it. Basically we're multiplying the color on top of this basically, and add also this on top of our base colors we have over here. Okay, again with add linear dots. Finally, I'm going to go and create a dirt map from curvature and ambient occlusion. You can see that we can start getting our whole design over here. And okay, from the base color, color with lower lightness, and we're going to add this with min darken. Then I'm going to adjust a little bit the curves to soften things up, and you can see our design, it's working. Well, it looks mostly like you throw paint on the canvas, but yeah, on the final substance it actually looks nice. Okay, so of course with that we output the base color. So this is the base one. Now on part 2 we're going to dive deep into how we can make this, and it's going to require a little bit of math. So yeah, and we're going to also see a few other stuff with the FX map. So you can get, of course, this material on my Patreon page. Okay, and of course feel free to support me if you want to see more. And yeah, I'll see you on part